welcome to another edition of The Walking Dead.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of EPL on
Class is in session, hitting the books on Pub Sports.
This is another exciting edition of the main event on Talking Ant.
Class is in session. It's not Classes in Session. Wrong show. This is the Pub Hub, not the Hitting the Books. College Football Pub Hub on a Saturday, October the 8th on Pub Sports Radio. Ian Cameron, Conor Mac, DJ Big Boss, maybe Big Ragoo, hopefully checking in soon as well. We're ready for another Saturday of college football. Pretty much now we're into conference season, so that's the big shift you always see once we get into the month of October. So pretty much conference action littering the board today and for the rest of the season. So without further ado, as always, we'll start with the noon kickoffs, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Start with one in the Big Ten. We've got Purdue and Maryland. Maryland 3-point home favorites, 60 the total in this game. Some money's come in on Purdue, down from 3.5 to 3 with the news that Aiden O'Connell is good to go. Will be the starting quarterback here for Purdue in this game. We've already seen Purdue take care of business on the road in the underdog role against Minnesota. I kind of like Purdue with the points here, honestly, in this game. I think it's a close game either way, especially if you can get 3.5. Wouldn't shock me if this game is decided by a field goal, and definitely with the news that O'Connell is going to be good to go for Purdue. It's going to help their offense against a Maryland secondary. Still a little shaky. That being said, Maryland 4-1. Little Tua, Talia Tagovailoa playing solid. They've actually covered 4 straight. The only loss during that span was the 7-point loss they had at the Big House against Michigan. So they're playing pretty good football. But, you know, with O'Connell playing with that passing game, like I said, 98th ranked secondary, Maryland. That's a problem because Purdue is really more of a pass-heavy offense. So I lean Purdue. I lean to the over. Connor, what do you think there in the Big Ten?
Yeah, like you saw earlier in this week, this has come down. I don't know. We're going to figure out for Maryland. This is a huge game for them here at home. You talked about little too, especially for the defense, but I don't think they can contain Purdue. And I think Purdue moves the ball. This total is interesting. It's kind of come up. Now it's just hanging where it's at, down to 60. I think this could just stay under or go over. So in the end, I stayed off the total. But I think these extra points with Purdue is it. I want them in a close game. And little Tua hasn't had too many turnovers, which has been big. And I think the Purdue defense has been a little bit better. And one thing we know, they've been in close games. Last year, they've either won or been in some tight ones, you know, whether it was Syracuse, Penn State. So give me the points with Purdue, and I'll take some money line here as well.
There are only 2 losses, Penn State and Syracuse. And you know those 2 teams haven't lost yet? Syracuse undefeated, Penn State undefeated, and they lost. And they had a chance to win those 2 games. They were right there, Purdue. So I really think this is a pretty damn good football team, all things considered, especially when O'Connell's there. That's why I thought getting the points was worth a look there. What do you think here, boss?
Well, I would be leaning more towards Maryland, but I'm off of this game right here. I usually fade injuries, like the guy coming back, first game back. I'm usually willing to fade him. So I will be looking to take Maryland, hoping that O'Connell takes a little while to get cranked up, or any type of small edge in there where the injury affects the play on the field. So, but for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and pass on this one though. But I would be leaning Maryland.
All right, leaning toward Maryland in this one. Look who's here, Big Ragoo. People
I hit the wrong link. I got to apologize, guys.
No worries at all.
Jackass. Good morning.
That's okay. It's all good. All good. The Mets game. People thought the Mets game caused you some emotional stress or something.
Oh, yeah. I jumped off a cliff.
Yeah. He'll be fine. He's a big boy, Big Ragoo. He's been around for the block a few times. Yeah.
It's not the first loss, I'm sure.
No, exactly. Not his first rodeo. Good to have you, my friend. What do you think here of this first game we're talking about? Purdue
Maryland game?
Yep.
Yeah. Purdue's defense is pretty good. They're a couple games. They can legitimately be 5-0 right now, just a couple scores away. But I think it's going to be a close game either way. It's going to be a squeaker. So, yeah, I'm not on the game, but it should be a good game, a good game to watch, maybe live bet.
All right, Louisville and Virginia next up. 2 kind of underachieving teams this year. Louisville opened 5-point road favorites. They're down to 1. Even pick them in some spots. 48.5. The total's also been bet down. This is all reaction to the news that Malik Cunningham is out for Louisville. He won't play at quarterback. Brock Doman Doman was going to end up being the quarterback here for Louisville today. He did beat out 2 other players he was competing with for the backup job in camp. So he's clearly established himself as the number 2 quarterback, but he just has not thrown many balls in game action in the past. So how's he going to fare here is the question. I'll be honest with you. Even with the quarterback change, I can't back Virginia right now. I can't. I mean, this is just a team that's not played any good. Tony Elliott looks like he's lost at times with this team. The defense has fallen apart. They got ripped by Duke last week, 38-17. Don't be fooled by the loss to Syracuse. They were well out of that game. Syracuse started to turn the ball over, and that's what brought Virginia back into that game. They barely beat Old Dominion. Ugly loss against Illinois. I mean, this is a Virginia team that's totally underwhelmed me, even with Louisville without Cunningham. I don't want Virginia. In fact, there's probably value on Louisville now if you can trust this quarterback, but that's the big question. So small lean to Louisville at the better number now. What do you think here, Connor?
What are you going to get? Yeah, obviously now this has come down. What is it, a pick 'em?
Yep.
This kid hasn't played. Cunningham,
yep.
I don't know if it's a record. He's had like 40, 50 straight starts. So maybe you watch this one, see what this backup who hasn't played much can do. But yeah, you know what? Backup, no Cunningham in. I don't want anything to do with this one. So it's a quick pass.
Yeah, that's going to be the question. And, of course, coming off the loss to Boston College. And I said that was a dubious spot with Louisville laying double digits on the road. I said, no, last week. And sure enough, BC beats them as double-digit home dogs. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, Louisville's been struggling regardless. And maybe this provides a spark to them. And we know Cunningham is the elite star of the team, but sometimes you hit those rough spots, and Louisville was definitely in it. So, and Virginia, they're not setting the world on fire offensively. If they can pass for 200 yards, I think they'll have some success here. But I lean to the under in this game. I think it's a good under spot.
All right, good under spot. What do you think, boss?
Oh, I like that under spot because this Virginia team, they don't do much on offense, but seems like all the Virginia teams play decent defense, but all of them pretty much struggle with offense, except for West Virginia this year is getting a little better in that area. But I'm not too quick to jump on Louisville. I mean, I talk about it all the time on this show about Louisville being sporadic, you not knowing what team you're going to get from week to week. But I think if you like Louisville's side, I mean, for the line, I mean, Cunningham's a decent quarterback, but nothing to go say that there's a backup on the bench that can't play any better than what he's doing. So, it's a little value in supporting, like Ian said, supporting the youth coming in here and taking them at a lower line right here. So I don't know. If I had to make a play, I'd probably go Louisville, but I'm gonna stay off of it because they're too sporadic.
Too sporadic is right. Michigan, Indiana, Big Ten. We've got Michigan 22.5-point road favorites, 59 being the total in this one. You know what? That 3-2 record is flattering to Indiana because they're probably one of the worst 3-2 teams you'll see. I mean, they were fortunate as shit to beat Illinois. They played Idaho, and then they came back from a game they were trailing most of the way against Western Kentucky. And then in the other games, they got just crushed by Cincinnati and Nebraska, who just barely beats Rutgers on the road last week. So I don't like the way they're trending, Indiana. I sure as hell don't like the way they're trending on defense. My gosh, the last 2 weeks, 80 points combined to the Huskers and the Bearcats. That may be trouble against this very balanced Michigan offense that can throw it a little bit with McCarthy. He's an athletic quarterback. Blake Corum, outstanding running back. And you look at this Indiana defense, struggle against the run, struggle against the pass, 423 total yards per game allowed. Certainly I'm looking at a Michigan team total over, and maybe even the full game over, because look, Connor Bazelak in the passing game can do some things. They're not bad throwing the football. When you look at this Indiana team, it is their strength. They can't run it very well, but they'll at least try to attack this Michigan secondary, and they've actually picked up their tempo and their pace. That's why 3 of their last 4 games have gone over. So the money's come in on the over. I kind of agree with that, and I don't want Indiana, even with all these points. I think I just don't trust that defense to hold up here against Michigan for 4 quarters. They're getting a bunch. They're at home, but I don't know. This Indiana team to me has not been impressive. What do you think here, Con?
Yeah, they are getting a bunch, and they are at home, but I still can't take Indiana in this one. I mean, this seems like kind of the flat spot. Michigan plays Penn State, right, next week. We mentioned it on Monday. I'd look at Michigan, their team total. But this is one I wanted nothing to do with from the beginning, and I'll gladly pass.
That is a good point, and we mentioned that is on Monday. The Penn State game next week for Michigan. That's the big one. Can they stay focused, keep their eyes on the prize today with the Hoosiers? What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, I kind of like Connor's look. With not necessarily a flat spot, but like a business-like type of game they go in there with. You got to lay 4 scores here to get to the number, and I think when they played Maryland, I think they gave up 2 TDs, passing offense too over there at Maryland. So I think they handle business similarly here, where they just kind of it's hard to argue with what they're doing. They're doing Michigan's playing good football, both sides of the ball. I think we see the same type of game we've seen against Maryland. So I think they'll maybe a team total look is good, but maybe look to Indiana score maybe 14, 17 points in this spot here. So do what you do with that information right there.
All right, boss, Michigan, Indiana.
Well, I'm not too into this Michigan team overall. I think they're gonna have their day. They're gonna have a slip up, a hiccup, or something, and they're gonna get beat. But this Indiana team is not the team to do that. They're 1-4 ATS. After watching them last week, they really struggled. They really were kind of very slow. I couldn't really understand the team after I put a good eye on them. But I don't like Michigan enough to take them with this big number. With the game coming up after this game, you got a chance for a backdoor cover in the fourth quarter. If Michigan's up high, they're going to pull some of their top players and save them for the next game. But that could open up the back door for a backdoor cover, but not worth it to risk it today. So I'm off of that one.
All right, let's go to a little action. Buffalo, Bowling Green. Buffalo 2-point road favorites, 54.5, 55 the total. I'll give Buffalo credit. First of all, last week they found a way against Miami. Although we know the Miami Redhawks, they've been without their number 1 quarterback, Brett Gabbert, for some time. But still, Buffalo, last 2 weeks they beat up Eastern Michigan and hang 50 points on them, and then a nice home win against a solid Miami, Ohio team. They're playing better football. They're same with their quarterback as well. He seems to be progressively getting better, Cole Snyder. They give him credit for that as well. But now you're putting them as road favorites here. I don't know. I mean, I know they crushed Eastern Michigan the last road game, but they lost by doubles to Maryland, Coastal Carolina. Betting market souring on Bowling Green a little bit. You look at their schedule. They had UCLA. They played. Now, the Eastern Kentucky loss was not good when they lost that game as 7.5-point favorites. They did come back. They beat Marshall in overtime. Obviously, they're going to be thumped by Mississippi State. And keep in mind, Matt McDonald, the quarterback, didn't play in that game against Mississippi State. And then last week against an Akron team that had been struggling, they only win the game by 3 points. And I think because they didn't cover, the betting markets have soured now on Bowling Green. I think this is a nice buy low situation on Bowling Green. I'm a little bit surprised they're home underdogs here. McDonald's going to be at quarterback. I know he missed the game a couple weeks ago, but he's good to go here. I like them as home dogs. I also like the over here. 5-0 to the over this year, this Bowling Green team. And Buffalo's cashed overs in 3 of their last 4 games. I'm a little bit surprised this total has stayed pat in the mid-50s. I think it gets over that number. What do you think, C-Mac, Buffalo BG?
Yeah, it's surprising it hasn't moved that much, the total. I'm going to stay off. I think this is kind of a coin flip. I think, Bowling Green at home with McDonald in is a little plus there. So if I had to do this one, I'd lean to Bowling Green here at home.
All right, Big Ragoo.
Yeah, overlook typical matching game. They flipped the switch on the side. With Buffalo becoming the favorite here, so that puts me off of it a little bit in that side. But like you said, 5-0 to the overs on Bowling Green. Maybe a little buy on spot there, possibly too. But yeah, I lean over.
All right, boss.
This happened to be a MAC game. I know I said early in the season that I wasn't going to be.
I was going to say, I just remembered. Should I even ask boss if he likes anything here? It's a MAC game.
I was going to say I was going to leave MAC till they start coming on Wednesday, but since we have a decent sample size now, I drew up some numbers on this one. So this is one of my numbers play right here that I drew up, looking at the defense over here at Bowling Green is horrible. I mean, they're giving up 172 on the ground, 339 in the air. They're giving up 51% on third down. They do a little better. They're only giving up 78% in the red zone, but nothing great to say about this defense. And, the DC over there is Van Gorner, who's I'm very familiar with from when he was at Notre Dame and got fired because the guy just loves to blitz. He just blitz. So if you got a decent quarterback, your blocking can pick up the blitz a little bit. You can beat this Bowling Green team easy. That's why teams been beating them sometimes. They've been kind of sliding by the skin of their draws on some of these games, and that's what got them in this 2-3 that they at right now. But they're definitely going to be bottom barrel of the MAC going forward. They really on paper, they don't even do well on offense. They're super upside down. They're scoring 24 points a game, giving up 37 points a game. The offense is in shambles. They're not even running 100 yards rushing the game. They're only doing 211 in the air. I don't know how this did open up with Bowling Green as the favorite by 2, and it's been bet to Buffalo now is the road favorite. But I was on it early in the week because the numbers brought it up. And then on the other side for Buffalo, they're not as upside down. They only they scored 27 points a game. They're giving up 30. So they're doing good in those areas. Maybe the quarterback's not as good as McDonald, but I think he gets the job done here today. And I also favor that over as well. They're going to put some points up on the board for sure. So, especially with the blitz package, you could bust something open real quick. So I like Buffalo in this one today in some action. That's one of my better bets of the day because it comes straight off of the stats, turned upside down, taking the worst teams and exploiting them.
All right, there you go. Like in Buffalo, Arthur Mead Jr., $5 donation. We appreciate that. Thank you very much for the dono. Love it. All right. I almost think I'm living in an alternate universe here, alternate reality, seeing Lawrence, Kansas being the site of game day. But here we are for TCU and Kansas in a big football game, not basketball. TCU 7.5-point road favorite, 68.5 the total. Man, I wasn't sure it was going to hit 7. I certainly thought it was going to hit 7 on Monday when Connor and I talked about this game, but 7.5 now. It has just been a love-in with TCU. People have just completely fallen in love with this team after they destroyed and blew the doors off Oklahoma last week. There's no question. And they see them putting up 40s and 50s every single week. And look, there's a part of me that's concerned. That's going to totally overwhelm this Kansas team. That offense, Max Duggan running, the great running back, being able to really do damage against them. And then, of course, through the air, Max Duggan's really improved. He's got receivers like Tay Barber, and Gunnar Henderson. And, of course, Kendre Miller, an outstanding running back. All of these weapons, and it could overwhelm Kansas's defense. That is the concern here. But, you look at this Kansas team, and they have 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread. It's a battle of undefeated straight-up teams and undefeated against the spread teams. How about that here in this TCU-Kansas game? But now that it's above 7, I'm on Kansas again. Win or lose, I'm riding or dying with this Jayhawks team. They've been good to me this year. I've been on them every week. I have concerns that, this TCU offense is so powerful that they're going to end up building a margin. But I'm going to take my chances. That's not the case. You've got 4 weeks of winnings with Kansas built up. I say let's keep going until they fail to get it done for me. And look, they are at home. I worry that the magnitude of this moment maybe gets them a little bit. Remember, this is big for them. Everybody's paying attention now. Game day is there. Stage fright, if you will. It's a big spotlight for a program that's not used to it. But I'm going to take Kansas here again. Certainly from a totals perspective, it should be high scoring. I think Jalen Daniels and the Kansas offense will certainly play a lot better than they did last week against Iowa State. So it would be home dog and over for me. What do you think, Connor? This big one in the Big 12. Could be look, Texas-Oklahoma is going on. This actually could be the biggest game in the Big 12 today. Forget the Red River game. This could be the one.
Yeah, both huge games here. I've been on both these teams. They haven't lost for me. So this one's really tough. It's hard to, I think TCU is a little bit better, but, now the 7 and the hook, I think it's a lot. I think Kansas will be prepared. They're dealing with injuries, a little bit more than TCU. And we talked about Max Duggan should have been the quarterback from the beginning, and he's just taken that job and secured it for sure. The over is a play for me here. And I got to take a piece of Kansas with the 7.5. I remember these two teams met late last year, 21-point favorites, TCU, field goal game, bunch of points. I think TCU is a little bit better, but I don't know about a touchdown. So over and give me a little bit on Kansas 7.5.
Yeah, Kansas, by the way, 8 straight covers dating back to last year. So this team's on a point spread roll, no doubt. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
Both of these two teams right now, they're like locomotive trains going down the track 100 mile an hour. Like you said, the moment for Kansas, this is it. It's big spotlight. But this is not your mom and pop's TCU team either with Sonny Dykes, what he's kind of done over there, opened it up. Offensively, it seems like this is the main focus. You can't score on TCU. They'll give up some points, and Kansas is the team to do that. So I kind of like I do like the over here. I bet it earlier in the week. I'm surprised it hasn't crept up more than it has. But, we're getting up to 70 points, close to 70 now. But I think both teams – I think one of the teams is definitely going to hit the 40s, and one's going to hit the 30s for sure. So I wouldn't be afraid to lay team total overs on both of these teams here. I think Kansas is like 30.5, and TCU is like 37.5. So I see the game going over. I see high scoring. And the only thing I worry about Kansas, if you're going to bet Kansas, like you said, if TCU runs it up, then maybe it puts the onus on Kansas to make the bigger plays. When they're forced to do it, then that might take a different perspective to them being under the big lights and everything. But I think it's going to be a good game, a shootout. I'm on the over.
All right, liking the over. What do you think, boss?
Hey, this is the barbecue pitmasters challenge right here. I mean, do you like the Kansas City barbecue or do you like Texas style barbecue right here? Because if you was rolling with Texas barbecue so far, then you've been eating good and having a good time. And if you've been rolling with KC barbecue, you've been eating good and having a good time too. But me, myself, I kind of dibble-dabbled on both plates. I didn't came up with TCU so far, and I also hit some great spots with Kansas. Both were two great dark horses. And guys, this is what you guys supposed to be doing at the beginning of the year, finding these teams like this that's going to be dark horses and go through. But definitely in this spot right now, they're so similar. Both are undefeated ATS. Both are undefeated for the season. So similar. I don't see how you even put points in between them. So I would have to take Kansas plus the points in this situation. But, it just kind of comes down to preference at the end of the day. But I talked about this last week too. I forgot what game it was, but, when two teams such as these two come together, the similarities and the speed is the same. So when we really think we're going to get a great over, you may get an under out of this one. It's kind of like a little contrast because you got to figure the speed and tempo that TCU play is the same speed and tempo that Kansas play. And they practice against this, when they practice, so it's the similarity kind of draws up a different reaction. But I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it to Big Ragoo. It does look like a clear shootout. I mean, like you said, but why is the number not moving as much as it should? But at the end of the day, I'm off.
There you go. Yeah, I know what you mean. A plus B doesn't always equal C. That's what boss is trying to say right there with the total here. We'll see. It feels like it should be points, but you never know. There's been times I've loved an over, and it's been 17-14 or something like that. So I don't know if this will be that game, but we'll see. Missouri and Florida. Next up in the SEC, Florida, 11-point home favorites, 53.5 the total. So the first thing that stands out like a sore thumb is really tough spot for Missouri, right? Poured their guts out last week against Georgia, had Georgia on the ropes for much of that game. And of course, Georgia survives with a push in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game, surviving a great effort by Missouri. What do they have left in their tank now going on the road against Florida? At the same time, I'm not laying 11 with Florida. Not the way that team's going trajectory-wise right now. So it's a pretty easy decision for me. Pass on that one. Slight lean to the over. What do you think, Connor? Missouri, Florida?
Yeah, I want nothing to do with this game. This was a quick pass. If I had to, I'd lean with Missouri catching these points, but Florida back at home. But yeah, I can't lay doubles with them right now.
Yep. Hey, the offense, was usually been the strength for Missouri, but where did that defense come from last week? My goodness. I mean, this is a defense that got shredded by Kansas State that hasn't played particularly good in other games this year, and they bottled up, Georgia for much of that game. Yeah, Starchild liking the over. That is, if I were to bet anything, it would be over the 53.5 there, Mizzou and Florida. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, Mizzou, they were the ones that Auburn got that lucky win against that game. They could have another W.
Yeah, that's two brutal losses in a row. You're right.
Yeah,
that Auburn game, they gave it to Auburn. Yeah,
it's friggin' nuts what this team's going through. So, like you said, how much do they have left in the tank? Mentally and all that good stuff. But you know what? I read the tea leaves a little bit with Florida, with Richardson. He had a pretty good game up in Tennessee coming back in the swamp here. I kind of like Florida in a spot. It's a spot play.
Yep.
I'm not crazy about the whole scheme of things, what's going on with Florida, but, they're going to catch your rough spots, Napier and Richardson working things out. And I think Missouri's a tough squad. They played some tough games and everything, but this could be a big letdown game for Missouri going into the swamp. So I'm going to back Florida here. I'm going to lay the doubles.
All right, laying the double digits. It's definitely a Florida spot. No question. Certainly not a good one for Mizzou. The question is, do you have the faith in them laying this kind of a number? I don't, but I don't want Missouri. I'll tell you that. What do you think here, boss?
I absolutely love Florida in this position. Bill Napier, first-year coach right here, he doesn't have any room to let up off the gas. So he has to continue to win. He's been doing great at home. So, I was on the wrong side of the fence early in the season in the Utah game when I was saying that the bounce house doesn't affect, the team as much and all that. And at the end of the game, Utah screw the game at the because of the crowd and all of this stuff. So going into the bounce house after coming off a game with Georgia, a lot of people are banged up. They still had guys showing up probable on Thursday and Friday this week. So that's just typical, SEC play. These guys, they play the game of their life that time. They're not that group you've seen against Georgia. They're not coming back on defense this week. So they're playing the Florida team who Bill Napier is real meticulous. He prepares well, so he's gonna give it his all right here. So if they drop it even a little bit, he's gonna take advantage of them. And I like Florida too, giving up the points right here.
Yeah, the 1-8, by the way, ATS for Florida. The last 9 is favorites, so that's been the issue, laying points with this team. But man, if there's ever a spot to do it, it might be this one. We'll see how that one goes. All right, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan. We got the Broncos 6-point home favorites, 55 being the total in this game. Another Maction affair. Western Michigan, not a team I'm rushing to lay 6 with. Now, Jack Solopik, their quarterback, hasn't been that bad for them. Taking over the quarterback position this year from Ellaby, who was a pretty good quarterback for them the last few years. They absolutely steamrolled an FCS opponent, but against FBS competition, they get blown up by Michigan State, Pitt, San Jose State, pretty good teams, and Ball State, they win by 7. Not the kind of win by margin team. And all we know about Eastern Michigan is in the underdog role for the most part. There are some exceptions, but for the most part under Chris Creighton, it's been a good underdog team. The reason why the money's come in on Western Michigan is because Taylor Powell, the Troy transfer, may not be at quarterback again for Eastern Michigan. He's missed some time with injury, so it could be Austin Smith again. But Austin Smith hasn't been terrible at quarterback for Eastern Michigan. Money's come in on Western. I would not want to lay this many with them. I haven't bet the game, but I am leaning a little to EMU. I always like that team when they're in the underdog role. What do you think, Conor Mac?
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay off too. I think you got to lean over, but will it get there? Both these teams, at the very bottom defensively. There's other MAC games we'll get there later. Yeah, it's just weird. Everyone's piling in on Western here. It's moved to 6. I would need more than a touchdown with Eastern Michigan. Yeah, I just think they could keep it close. So, yeah, the market's a little weirder in this one. So I'm just keeping it a lean. I probably won't get involved.
All right, Big Ragoo.
Yeah, we're all thinking the same thing with Eastern here. The question marks at quarterback. I think it's a lower score game. Actually, I think it sets up that way. I would lean. We hate equating max with unders, but if there's an under spot in the MAC, I think this is it.
All right, boss.
Yeah, I agree with that under right there too. Western Michigan, I kind of lean towards their side as well, but they do better on the run than the pass. So I think they run the ball and chew up some clock. I think this falls under the total.
All right, let's go to Tennessee and LSU in the SEC. An early game in Baton Rouge. How about that? That could be a benefit to Tennessee. Tennessee 3-point road favorite, 63.5 the total in this one. Yeah, even at 3 now, it's gone up a little bit from 2.5. It was 2.5 earlier this week. It's finally pushed to 3. Even at 3, I just think Tennessee's a better football team. I just do. I think they are. I don't think LSU, and I think it's going to take time. I think Brian Kelly and LSU, they're in the second tier of teams. Well, there's that top tier, right? Bama and Georgia. Then there's that next tier, which I think Tennessee you can put in that mix. Ole Miss, Kentucky, teams like that. I think they're a tier even below that right now, LSU. I think it's going to take them a little bit of time. I mean, look, Jaden Daniels can't throw a lick. The passing game hasn't been there for LSU. Most of their offense has been either running it or the quarterback running it so far this year. It's not like they've been a great passing attack by any stretch. And the LSU defense, the jury's out. I mean, the one good team they played pretty much they played Mississippi State. They did a good job defensively, but FSU moved the ball against them. New Mexico has no offense. Auburn's offense is pathetic this year. You're really going to be tested now by this Tennessee Volunteers offense if you're LSU. I just think laying 3 is reasonable. And I think the fact that this is an early game in LSU, not a late night game, which takes away a lot of that home field edge, that's a benefit to the Vols. A much better quarterback right now. Jaden Daniels supposed to be a good quarterback. I just haven't seen consistency from him. I like Tennessee at 3 or less. Lean over the totals. I can't bet Tennessee unders. I mean, we see Tennessee so many overs once again this year. Florida game, 71 points in that game. The Akron game went over. Ball State, I mean, they've been an over machine dating back to last year. I mean, overall, their last 10 games, guys, dating back to last year, 9-1 to the over. Their last 10 games, Tennessee. So it's hard to look at an under with this team. They just play so fast. They're so explosive on offense. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, they do. This one's different. I think if you look at the eye test, and this number, when it was 2.5, you just jump out and say, man, this is Tennessee. You got to take them. But I don't think so. Like you talked about, this would be better if this was a night game at LSU. But I think the jury's still out with Tennessee. Who have they beat on the road yet? But even both these teams, even LSU. But they are at home here, catching 3. Daniels hasn't been that great, but he hasn't been horrible. I know he hasn't thrown any picks, I think. Hooker will be good. I think LSU has the better defense in the end. And I think LSU can score on that Tennessee defense. So I think this one's close. It's kind of a flip. But if you gave me the 3 with the home team, I'd take LSU.
Yeah, I like all week. I like Tennessee to win the game. 3 is my cutoff as well. Like if you laid 3 if you had to lay more than 3 with Tennessee, I'd probably be out in terms of backing them at that number if it was more than this. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
I think LSU is an extra point away from being undefeated. But that being said, when Daniels played at Arizona State, with the Pac-12 defenses, he's coming up against a Pac-12 defense today with Tennessee. So maybe I agree with Connor. I think LSU's got the better defense. They've been really good on third downs. I think they're a little bit underrated in my book. I know it's first-year coach, but I just think it's a good spot. We're talking about spots again, but I think this is a good spot. Nighttime, definitely a play on with LSU. But I think even right here, it's an early kick, but I think definitely Tennessee has a better offense without question. But I think LSU will be able to run the ball here, and Daniels won't have to pass as much. He can, maybe use his legs a little bit and stretch the defenses out even further. So I like LSU in the spot catching the points at home.
All right, like an LSU with the 3, boss. What do you think here?
I'm all over Tennessee in this one. I like what Heupel's doing, and this is a momentum play right here. I think for the momentum of this Tennessee team, keep things going on the right path. I think this is a good spot for him. Brian Kelly, on the other hand, we know this guy can lose the big games, and he's been doing a decent job over there despite all of going against him this year. But now he's getting put more to the test with this Tennessee team who has a lot to offer on the offensive side of the ball. So I hope his defense is ready, and if his defense is not ready, I hope his offense is ready to score points. So I took Tennessee already minus the 3. I'm just wondering if I want to hit the under in this one as well. I really would. I like that it's going up a little bit more, but I would really want like a 65 to tell you the truth. So maybe it's a live play on the under in Tennessee from the start of the game.
All right.
Tennessee struggled real quick with LSU in the past. They haven't won there in a while, so just interesting to note there.
Their best chance and their best team to do it. We'll see if they can do it today in Baton Rouge. All right, we've got the I'm still calling it the Red River Shootout. I know people get, we got to be careful with what we say, but Red River Shootout, Red River rivalry, Texas, Oklahoma. Texas 8-point favorites here in the Cotton Bowl, as it always is, 64.5 the total in this one. I mean, You want to play an Oklahoma game under right now with that defense? I mean, that defense was embarrassing last week. It's got to be called out for what it was. I mean, you got receivers running right behind the defense. You've got Max Duggan just taking off for a simple quarterback keeper, and he goes 80 yards for a touchdown. Where is this defense? Holy shit. When I thought they hired Brett Venables, I thought, man, Oklahoma's defense, which has been a problem in the past, is finally going to get cleaned up a little bit. Hasn't happened. I mean, just absolutely brutal. I mean, it's tough to back Oklahoma, right? They've looked so sad on defense. Back-to-back losses, K-State, TCU, couldn't stop a nosebleed in either game. It's really hard to stomach a bet on Oklahoma right now, plus the situation with their quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, who took a vicious hit last week in that game. That's concerning, obviously, going into this game. We might have to see Davis Bevel again, but Dylan Gabriel apparently has been seen trying to throw the football around in warmups prior to this game. So he may try to give it a go here. If not, we'll see Davis Bevel, who came in last week in his place against TCU. Either way, I don't want Oklahoma. But here's the problem with laying now 8.5 with Texas. It feels like the price ain't right. It feels like I could only back Texas because of this Oklahoma team just in such a bad way, and Gabriel might not start, and the defense is so bad. But the price may not be right. I mean, Oklahoma's been a 3-point favorite or more in 10 straight Red River rivalry games. All right, they've been favored in every single recent Red River rivalry game, and all of a sudden they're getting 8.5 here. So you've not only got to trust Texas to win, you got to trust Texas to win by margin. And you look at the last 10 meetings, Texas has only 2 wins, and the 2 wins were both by 7 or less. So they've got to win by the type of margin that they have never been able to get in this kind of rivalry. Now, Oklahoma's beaten up right now, and the defense can't stop anybody. And Texas gets Quinn Ewers, their best quarterback, returning for this game. So there's not a lot of confidence I have in Oklahoma, but it kind of feels like you're paying a hefty premium if you're going to back the Longhorns here. So tricky game from a side perspective. What do you think, Connor, here?
Yeah, I just want to watch this one. I'm going to have no bet. Yeah, it just seems crazy. You nailed it all with those things. But, I mean, just looking at this, like Texas should just run all over him. But you got to think, if Oklahoma isn't up for this one, what will they be? I think Gabriel, we'll see if he's a go. I think that'd be big if he's in for them. Yeah, I just can't get there with Oklahoma. This game's probably tight. You know, I want to take the 8 points with them, but I got no trust. I would need doubles with them, just the way I've seen them the last 2 or 3 weeks. I need over 10, 14. So I'll be watching.
He's warming up, but that doesn't mean he's going to play Dylan Gabriel. And to be honest with you, he was terrible before he got hurt against TCU. He's overthrowing receivers. His accuracy was way off early in that game against TCU before he got injured. So let's see if he does play. Hopefully he's better with that. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
It's funny how these when these coaches show up, like you said, Venables being a defensive guy, how it doesn't equate always to their standard of football. I've seen that happen time and time again with these coaches that move on to other schools, but because they got to deal with the personnel they have, that's the other issue. But I think it is a lot of points. Notoriously, you know, they've been shootouts type of games, but I think this one here has got a lot of question marks around it. So I'm going to take a pause on this one. But funny thing was, even with Oklahoma's backup, Bevel, you know, they were even trying out JUCO transfer General Booty. So that's an interesting name right there. But yeah, I don't know, man. It would have to be definitely an Oklahoma or pass. Especially this might be a game you might want to wait and see for like a live bet opportunity. If see how sharp Gabriel is if he comes into the game. You know, if Texas goes up with an early score, and then maybe you could back Oklahoma in a live bet if Dylan looks good.
I get it. I've heard some unique names, but sometimes I wonder if the parents are just trolling everybody or trolling their own fucking kid, naming their kid General Booty. I mean, seriously. I mean, Jesus. They must be trolling their own flesh and blood. That's pretty shameful if I'm a mom or dad doing that to my kid. What do you think here, boss?
Oh, man. I mean, if you're the type that want to stump a man while he's already down, then go ahead and take Texas and try to stump out Oklahoma. But Oklahoma ain't really did nothing to me to make me want to stump them out at this point. So I'm going to just let the game go. But they really have been performing bad on the field. Maybe the defense is cursed in Oklahoma because right here at USC, I see Lincoln Riley and all the same traits of a bad defense that he had in Oklahoma. Same thing over there. So I don't know. I'm going to stay off. I don't got it in me to stump out Oklahoma. But I do think Texas probably wins this game for sure. But like you said, the number might not be right. It is a rival game. It's on a neutral site. All those different factors. All that comes way between the 8.5, 7.5, whatever they're giving out there. So I'm off.
Yeah, how about a little collective heart? Let's see if we've got it from Oklahoma today after what we've seen the last couple of weeks. Yeah, that's bad parenting in my opinion. And what are we doing here, General Booty? But that's another story. Arkansas and Mississippi State. Mississippi State 9-point home favorites, 55.5 the total in this game. Arkansas, man, they better go back to the drawing board on defense and especially their secondary. So. All kinds of problems right now in terms of being able to get stops in the pass defense, and Alabama exploited them early and often, and even the run game. You know, we saw Bryce Young get injured for Alabama in that game last week. Jalen Milroe took over, and there's Milroe just running amok against that Arkansas defense. That was a disappointing performance to me, what we got from that Arkansas defense last week. Let's see if they fix it. Mississippi State, it just seems to keep on getting better and better and more impressive each week. I've been impressed with Will Rogers and the air raid attack. And, man, does that ever scare you when you think of how Arkansas's secondary has been so poor at times this year, much of the year, and that's essentially what Mississippi State's going to do, is going to throw the football all the time. So it could be a tricky matchup for Arkansas. That being said, I don't want to lay this many. I mean, I'm not backing Arkansas. KJ Jefferson's banged up. We'll have to see if he plays for Arkansas at quarterback. You know, you would think with all this line movement toward Mississippi State, there's probably a good chance you won't see him today on the field for Arkansas, which would be an even bigger advantage for Mississippi State. But, I just don't want to feel comfortable laying this many with Mississippi State. But I'll tell you what, this matchup for Arkansas really worries you. When you think of how brutalized that secondary has been, and you're going against a team that's exclusively throwing the football, that could be some trouble. And look, yes, El Duque says Mississippi State defense, we got to give it up to them. They've played well. This might be one of the better defensive teams I've seen out of a team coached by Mike Leach in any of his stops. There's no question. So it's a pass for me. The number got away. I think if you got Mississippi State early in the week and when they were like 5.5, 6, you got a great bet. 9, I'm not interested at that number. What do you think, Connor?
We'll see. We'll have to wait, but I think Jefferson will be a go, but I'm going to have to stay on top of that. You know what? This one I've circled back to time and time again. I think it might be too much, as I like Mississippi State here at home. And I think Arkansas, with the injuries and their secondary, isn't very good. But I think, Mississippi State defense isn't great either. I think if Jefferson's in, Arkansas can score. So I just have a lean to Arkansas in the 9.5 here.
All right, lean into the points. Big Ragoo.
Mississippi State, the number one pass attempt offense in the nation, number 3 at completions. They're just all over the place. And normally I'd be saying "Shoo-wee," right? Because I like Arkansas, but I'm not keen on them. But I think the number's getting away a little bit in this one here. So it would have to be some way to bet Mississippi State early. See what kind of adjustments Arkansas makes, possibly. If Mississippi can light up the scoreboard a little bit early. Maybe lean first half with Mississippi State.
Yeah, you know what? The problem is you said Suey last week. I said Suey last week, and I'm seeing Jalen Milroe, the backup quarterback, run for like a 70-yard touchdown against them. And I'm like, geez. You're not overcoming that. Not against a team like Alabama.
That's another coach right there that came in initially, air raid offense.
Yeah.
And the first couple of years, they couldn't even pass the ball around the field. Their defense was nasty, so yeah. It's funny how it works out that way sometimes.
Yeah, certainly Arkansas defense not up to task last week. They better be better than that this week, or else it could be another rough showing. What do you think, boss?
I think we wouldn't be saying the same thing, even if Arkansas covered in the fourth quarter last week against Alabama. We wouldn't be saying the same thing about Arkansas. I think this Arkansas team and what they do gives them an option, just like it did in the game versus Alabama. It gives them a chance to win every time. Running the ball, trying to play great defense is how great teams are created. So I love what they do in Arkansas, how they approach the game. I think, that loss to Alabama, I don't think it ruffled their feathers too much. I think if you look at the good things they done in the game, opposed to the bad things they done, then they definitely have something to build on. So I think it's too many points for Arkansas team who still may be a little bit hungry. I don't know how beat up they are from playing Alabama because they were doing the beating up because Alabama lost a lot of players in that game as well. So, and still, Jefferson, he still hasn't had the greatest game of his career this year yet. So we're still waiting for him to have one of those wild games where he's running all over the place and throwing touchdowns and all that stuff. So they still got hope. I'm not going to stump Arkansas at all, especially not the Mike Leach and a Mississippi State team who you never know what you're going to get out of Mike Leach. Sometimes he shows up, he seems like the greatest wizard ever to play the game, and then sometimes he kind of stinks. But October is his month because he loves Halloween candy and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm staying away, but I like Arkansas, though, and taking the points.
All right, good stuff. All right, next up we've got, as we go to a little Sunbelt in-state rivalry here, Georgia Southern, Georgia State. Georgia State 2.5-point home favorite, 66.5 the total in this one. Georgia State shocked me how poorly they've started the year. They hadn't won a game until finally last week. They beat Army 31-14. Now, their schedule was tough. South Carolina, North Carolina, terrible defensively, but great offensively, and they lost in a shootout to them. Coastal Carolina, pretty solid football team. But that was a nice win against Army because they controlled it 31-14, the best their defenses looked all year. Can we buy low a little bit now on Georgia State after a rough start? They've won and covered 2 in a row against Georgia Southern. And I still don't think Georgia Southern's nearly as good as their 3-2 start would indicate because, everyone's still in awe of that win against Nebraska. But Nebraska, we know, has had a disappointing year. They lost to UAB. They beat a pretty bad Ball State team. They lost to Coastal. So, you're asking them to win a game now against a Georgia State team that, yes, hasn't been what I thought, but I think Georgia State could be maybe using that win against Army to get their season back on track a little bit. I still like their run game, especially against the Georgia Southern run defense, which I think could struggle here a little bit in this game. You look at Georgia Southern's run defense, guys, it's ugly. It's given up 197 rushing yards per game. That's not, or 205. Sorry, I'm giving them too much credit. 205 rushing yards per game allowed Georgia Southern's run defense, and that's where Georgia State can get you on offense. They're a run first, run heavy offense. So I like Georgia State to win the game. I'm going to take them just money line minus $135, and certainly another game where we should see points. It's a high total, but I could only look over. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Yeah, there should be points. I don't know if it gets over, high total here. I lean Georgia State just at home here, but this should be a good game, I think, back and forth. It's just one I'm going to lay off.
All right, Big Ragoo.
I lean to the under. I think it's too many points. I think with the run, I think they'll be able to run the ball a little bit here, and I think we get a little more clock. But there will be definitely points scored, but I think up in the 60s, the high 60s is too many. I think it stays low 60s to high 50s.
Now, we all know Star Wars. Well, this is Pace Wars because you're going to get Georgia State slowing it down, run heavy, and you got Georgia Southern. They're going to throw it all over the place. They're air raid now, and they play extremely fast. So what's going to win out here? What do you think, boss?
There's been a lot of too much emphasis put on Georgia State all season, and here we go again, same thing. But yet and still, I'm not 100% confident in what Georgia Southern can do right here. This is usually a great game each year between these two teams. A lot of running, a lot of physical play, but this year I don't know where these two teams or one of the two teams find themselves in this game. But for me, I'm off this game.
All right, next up, we've got Akron and Ohio in the MAC. Ohio 10-point home favorites, 10.5 in some spots, 59 the total in this one. You look at this Ohio defense, man, they've been just absolutely terrible of late, especially not very good at all on that side of the football. We've got just some real ugly numbers for them, and you look at them, they're giving up 423 total yards per game. That's terrible. When you look at it, Akron's not much better either. I mean, these are two bad defensive teams. I like this game over the total, clearly. I was a little surprised this number was as low as 59, but I'm taking the Zips here, getting more than 10.5 in some spots. You look at Akron, they've best game of the year against Bowling Green last year. Last week they lost by 3. And then you look at the teams they played before that. Earlier in the season, they played Michigan State, they played Tennessee, they played Liberty. They feasted on a pretty tough non-conference schedule. And you look at Ohio, other than the game against Penn State, not as tough a schedule lately. And again, we're asking a team to win by double digits, and they've beaten Florida Atlantic by 3, and they've beaten Fordham, I believe it was. Yes, Fordham 59-52. They gave up 52 points. They won by 7. Didn't cover as double-digit favorites. I think Akron with the points is the way you go. I do see some improvement slowly but surely here for this Akron team. And props, by the way, to their head coach. It's obviously a guy that's been around the block. Joe Moorhead, Oregon, Penn State, Mississippi State. He's a good coach. He's a good football guy. And you knew eventually Akron was going to show signs, and they're starting to show some signs. I think it's too many points here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, the thing is, Ohio, I've liked them this year catching points. Now them laying this big number. They are at home. It's a lean for me with the Zips. I think they're a little bit better, than they've shown. So, yeah, just a lean with them catching the points here. I don't know if I get to the window.
Best game of the year by DJ Irons, by the way, their quarterback last week. 3 touchdown passes in that game against Bowling Green. So, and again, Ohio defense is not showing much resistance. So a shootout, and I think it's close the whole way. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
You like the shootout angle? I don't know. I know Akron's played the tougher games for sure. And usually a doormat team, but trying to change things up there. So, I mean, the past for years they've been going over, but last couple have been unders, and I kind of lean that way here again. I hate saying unders with Mac, like I said before, but I see one of these teams maybe out doubling up on the other side. And I think I would have to lean towards the under here. So I think it stays below, what is it, 59, 60 points, whatever it is.
59.
I like the under.
All right. What do you think, boss?
It's a total pass for me. I mean, how much Mac you want me to digest on one Saturday? I already gave you the Bowling Green thing, and that's where I'm going to leave it right there.
All right, good stuff. We got South Florida and Cincinnati. Cincinnati laying almost 4 touchdowns, 58.5 the total in this game. A lot of points to be laying here, but can you trust South Florida? That ends up being the question. For me, it's a lot of points because you look at it with Cincinnati. They've got SMU, UCF. They got some big games in the conference coming up following this one. But the question is, are you going to be able to trust South Florida enough to hang around in this game? We know that South Florida defense has not been very good at all. And the South Florida offense relies on running the football, and Cincinnati's run defense is still held up pretty well. So I don't love the spot for Cincy. It's definitely a lean to USF with the spot being what it is, but boy, it's hard to trust them if they can't run it. What do you think, Con?
Yeah, this is a dead pass for me. This is a shit ton of points. Cincinnati, getting into form with conference play, but that's a lot. Is their defense still the same? I don't think so. So maybe South Florida, can score a little bit in this one and maybe, cover this number.
Right, Big Ragoo.
I passed on this one. I was leaning towards a little bit of an over here because I think maybe South Florida, like Connor said, can get a few points here. So I just lean to the over slightly.
Lean to the over slightly. All right, boss.
That's way too many points for a Cincinnati team. They are great on defense. Luke Fickle's been doing his thing over there. They pretty much got the conference, I say, locked up for the season already. But this UCF team, I can't trust them as far as I could throw them. So even with the 27, it doesn't make it enticing for me to take them at that point. And then it's not enticing for me to give up that many touchdowns with a Cincinnati team that kind of plays like a standard defense. It kind of wears on you after a few quarters, and they get away with some things. So I'm off to.
Hey, one quick thing. I'll give you a quick ticket count. 65% of the bets on USF and 83% of the money.
There we go. So that's an interesting nugget for sure. All right, to make things easier for our guy Boss, we're going to do the last 3 MAC games all at once here. Ball State, Central Michigan. Get them out of the way. Ball State, Central Michigan, Kent, Miami, Toledo, Northern Illinois. Ball State Central, I like the dog there. Look, the MAC underdogs have been doing – like I got burned taking some MAC favorites last week. Bowling Green, Northern Illinois blew it, and they were both favored. I'm looking at dogs. Like I said, I already like Akron. I like Bowling Green in the earlier games we talked about. I like Ball State getting more than a touchdown. Their quarterback's not been bad. Paddock, he's done a solid job. Has he Drew Plitt quality yet? No. But Central Michigan's had some issues and struggles on defense. Their quarterback's been banged up at times. I like Ball State getting points there. Kent, Miami, Another over for me. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. We know Kent's one of the fastest-paced teams. Colin Schlee has gotten better at quarterback. Even the backup quarterback, Avion Woods for Miami, Ohio, has not done bad in Gabbert's absence. So I think we see points in that game. Toledo, Northern Illinois is a pass for me. Actually, you know what? I do lean to the Huskies a little bit. Home underdogs, Northern Illinois. People souring on them because they blew the game last week. I think I would still lean NIU as a home dog there. So those are my 3 looks on those 3 MAC games. Connor, those 3 MAC games, what do you like?
Yeah, I'm off Miami, Ohio. I kind of like Ball State. Now it's still 7.5. I like it. I like better as Northern Illinois. I don't know. It really matters who's in at quarterback. And their defense is very bad. And Toledo should score, but I think they will as well. So I like them at home here, +6, Northern Illinois.
All right, Big Ragoo.
Out of all that mess, I just lean over on the Kent State Miami O game.
All right, and Boss, I'm sure anything to add, Boss?
Your Honor, I like to plead the fifth, and I'll take pass, and pass.
Pass, and pass. Very good. All right, next up, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh. Pitt, 14.5-point home favorites, 42 the total. Fuck that. Fuck this game, man. I'm not laying 14 with Pitt. I mean, after what I saw last week, they lost to Georgia Tech. And you must be kidding me if you think I'm putting a penny of my money on Grant Wells and that pathetic clown at quarterback who cost me an over that I deserved last week. 10 points against North Carolina's defense. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm still mad about that. Grant Wells sucks. Pass. Under is the only way I could think here. What do you think? Tech, Pitt, Connor.
Pass. Nothing to say.
Big Ragoo.
Yeah, it's a low number too, man. I mean, Pitt might put the game over themselves. Who the hell knows? But Virginia Tech, Wells.
What a terrible offense, Big Ragoo. 10 points against North Carolina last week.
That's how you get your team right. You play North Carolina, like Miami today. We'll talk about that one later. But anyways, I'm off that game.
Boss, what do you think?
Oh, man, this is one right here. Virginia Tech defense only giving up 25% on third down. Is that because they never make it a third down because they let them score before that? I don't think so. I think they play good defense. That Pittsburgh we seen last week was lame. I think it might be worth it to risk it and take the 14.5. And Virginia Tech definitely has a chance to cover. They even have a chance to win. That Pittsburgh team playing how they playing, they're going to have a slip up for sure.
Yeah, I want no part of either of those teams. Pitt's the better team, but I'm not laying that many. And Virginia Tech, you must be kidding me if you think I'm taking them after what I saw last week. All right, Auburn, Georgia. Georgia, 28-point home favorites, 49.5 the total. I'm passing on this. Look, Georgia's got issues with these big numbers lately. Kent State, Missouri, didn't cover either one. Auburn's hot garbage. I don't want Auburn. Auburn could lose this game 49-3 or something. That wouldn't shock me. I don't trust Auburn's offense to do anything, whether it's Finley or Robbie Ashford. Although Robbie Ashford got a little bit better last week against LSU, but now you're playing Georgia on the road. I don't trust him here. Pass for me. What do you think, Connor?
I want nothing to do with this. Dead pass.
Look, Georgia's been vulnerable enough the last 2 weeks where I think they could slaughter Auburn. But
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's
But I'm not betting. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, I normally like to go up against Georgia on some totals, but Auburn's not the team you want to do that with, obviously. So the only thing I can maybe look at, maybe Georgia's a little pissed off about last week's effort with them. Maybe they come out in the first half and do a number on this team possibly. But other than that, I don't have a look on it. Or maybe first half Georgia.
Give me a free bet. It's Georgia because I would take Georgia 10 times over before I take Auburn in this game. But I'm going to pass. Boss, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Georgia first half too. I mean, although Harsin been doing a good job over there hanging on by a thread, the few games he did lose, other than the Penn State game, he lost by a large margin, but he didn't lose by a big margin to LSU. So, I mean, he's good for a cover here and there or something. And what a better save his seat than to beat Georgia, the number 2 team. What could they say to him then? But I don't think he has it in them. I mean, if you look at the schedule, Auburn, they can compete against teams like LSU and Missouri, but some teams in some games, they're just not built to win, and they don't win this one. Georgia's a lot frustrated, embarrassed, and everything about what happened to them last week. I think they fired up in this game, get the run game going early, and push these guys around on the field.
All right, see if they do that. Yeah, lean first half, first quarter. Hopefully they're due for a good start to a game. We'll see if this is it. Liberty, UMass. Liberty 24-47 the total. It's a hold your nose bet. I did take a small little piece at 24.5 UMass. I just think it's a terrible spot for Liberty. It's a clear flat spot. They played Old Dominion last week. That was a big in-state game. They've played, Virginia Tech. They've had some big games, Liberty, to begin the year. This ain't it. It's just, and hopefully UMass can, at home at least, you're going up to Amherst, Massachusetts. UMass just hang in there within 24. And by the way, too, a big part of this bet for me is Caden Salter, the Liberty quarterback, who I think by far is their best quarterback. He got hurt again last week, so likely not going to play here. So that's another factor. And small bet on UMass, but they're so bad, I had to keep it small. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I can't take UMass. Maybe look under. I don't know how much UMass is going to score in this one.
Under could be a good look. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, I pass on this one. I can't get behind UMass, and I don't want to lay 4 touchdowns with Liberty, even though they're capable of doing it. But I just pass this one.
All right, boss.
I'm reserving my liberty to pass.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Next up, as we continue on, by the way, hit the hour mark, hit the like button. We appreciate everyone joining us here on another edition of College Football Pub Hub on Pub Sports Radio. How about this game in the Pac-12? This should be something. Utah, UCLA, Utah 3-point road favorites, 64 the total in this one. So I have a bet on Utah here, -3 now. Now it's come back down again, -3. Look, Washington was laying almost 3 against UCLA on the road. Utah's better than Washington. To me, this is a number that's kind of weird. I mean, you're going to put Washington as -3 at UCLA. Utah's better than Washington. Utah then should be higher than this. And look, Utah defensively is not going to be the sieve that Washington was against DTR, Charbonnet, Jake Bobo, and all those great weapons on offense for UCLA. So I like Utah. It should be a lot of points, but 64, I don't know. I know UCLA plays fast. They lit it up, and I like the over last week. I don't like it as much here. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Utah is the better team. Tough spot, here for them to go in there and win. This one, in the end, I'm going to be off. It was 4.5, comes down to 3 basically everywhere. Lots of money on Utah. If I were to look, I'd look the other way with UCLA. I don't know. This is a watch for me.
All right, Big Ragoo, great game here.
Yeah, we know Utah's a lot better at home. They usually don't travel great. But I agree with you. All things said about Utah being better than Washington, and UCLA's putting some good stuff together down there in LA. They're doing a nice job. I think we're going to see a good football game. I think if he stays below 4 points, 4 below, I think I would have to lean towards Utah here. But and I definitely lean on the under. I think it's a lot of points. I think Utah's defense will be the difference maker in this game.
All right, what do you think here, boss?
This will be a great opportunity for Chip Kelly to get a win that really counts for something right here. With DTR over there on UCLA, he's the run pass threat that usually shakes up good defenses like Utah. They have to come up with either they dominate those guys and buckle them in, or they have to chase these guys around the field. So we don't know what that situation is going to be with UCLA. UCLA has been surprisingly good. For me, I wouldn't say that I predicted them to be 5-0 at this point, but they've been surprisingly good. But the slip up against South Alabama, I can't forget that, at all. So we don't know what we're going to get with UCLA. Sometimes they come in fast. Sometimes they start off slow. I'm sure the best way to bet this game is going to be live because you're going to get a lot of value either way. If UCLA goes down early, take the big points, and same thing with Utah. If they go down early, take the big points because the fourth quarter is going to be way different from the first half.
All right, East Carolina, Tulane, very good matchup, and 2 teams that are on the upswing in the AAC. Tulane 3-point favorites, 55 the total. Michael Pratt injured, Justin Ibieta injured against Houston, and then of course they were down to their third quarterback, Kai Orton, and they still beat Houston last week, this Tulane team. I love Willie Fritz, great coach. I wouldn't underestimate this team, regardless of who's at quarterback, and it could be one of any 3 of them. Pratt hasn't been ruled out. Ibieta could be ready to play again this week, and it could be Horton again, like it was finishing the Houston game. But, at least those guys got some playing time last week, both Ibieta and Horton. East Carolina, I think from a spot perspective, the huge win, they gutted it out against Houston in overtime, probably a little bit better spot for East Carolina. But I love these teams. I like both of them. I don't want to bet against either one, so it's a pass for me. Connor, what do you?
Yeah, me too. I don't want to bet against either team as much as Tulane here at home. I think their defense plays well. I know East Carolina's gotten to some shootouts, but against some, shitty teams like South Florida. I like the under here. I haven't bet this one yet, but that's my lean here.
All right, Big Ragoo.
Each of these teams, when they've won their games, they covered their games. So that's a cover opportunity for both of these. And like you said, both teams on the uptick. I lean even though Tulane's a favorite, I still lean East Carolina just slightly here, but I'm not going to play it, but I lean ECU.
All right, boss.
I'm going with the over on this one. I think the ball ends up in the air on this one because of the two defenses. One team can get ahead, but I think what we think is going to be a settled game is going to turn into an uproar, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
All right, next up, we've got Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State 9-point favorites, 66.5 the total in this game. Totals come down, even though this is going to be pace on both sides. I mean, we know we have Zach Kittley now as the offensive coordinator with the Red Raiders. We know Oklahoma State's playing a lot faster. They've trended over the total. Texas Tech has trended that way. I think maybe they thought it was a little too high in the late or high 60s. But now that it's come down a bit, I think you can really play the over now that it's back down to 66. I mean, I like what I'm seeing out of Donovan Smith for Texas Tech and Spencer Sanders. He's off easily after years of inconsistency to his best start as a college quarterback here at Oklahoma State. It's been a great start for Spencer Sanders. I think we'll see points. Nothing on the side. I like both teams, but I'm going to go with the over here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I think there's some points in this one, and it probably gets over. I think Smith, though, here can go toe for toe. Is he just this good, Spencer? I don't know. I think he can make some mistakes. I like the points here with Texas Tech, the plus 9.5.
All right, liking the points with Texas Tech. That's a lot of points to be given them, and as you know with Gundy, don't always like him as favorites compared to dogs. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
I agree with you there. Just Oak State's having one of their better seasons in a bit. Their offense, you get the optics on defense with them, but their passing defense is not what I think it should be. And I think Tech can, put points up here. And even though the numbers, up there a little bit, I'm seeing some sharper money, a little bit of sharper money on the under, and I'm seeing some sharp money on Tech also. So I'm going to pass and enjoy this one.
All right, boss.
This is going to be a good game right here. I'm starting to like this Oklahoma State team, and I don't even like the team itself. I just like the hate that they put on them. They've been actually going out, getting the job done in a major way. They're 3-1 ATS, and people still hate this team for some reason. But there's a big dynamic there with the quarterback as well. We talked about this in the preseason. A guy that stays there 2-3 years in college football, we look at him as he's senior, or this, whatever, but we forget that if he was that talented, he should have been out of here long before 3 years at the same organization. But with this guy right here, maybe you get one of those guys that really has elevated their game, and he takes this Oklahoma State team on a whole nother level. I think Oklahoma State could have a Big 12 championship leaning on their side right there. But this Texas Tech team, not the team to take, to lay the points with and take them, because Texas Tech, they can't close the door in the fourth quarter. They turn it on and turn it off. If it was at Texas Tech, I would jump on it, but plus the 9. But on the road, I'm going to just leave this one alone.
Yeah, I like both teams. This is like East Carolina, Tulane. I like both teams. I don't want to bet against either one. All right, the last 3:30 p.m. Eastern games, we'll do them both here. Tulsa, Navy, Middle Tennessee, UAB. Tulsa, 6-point road favorites, 46 the total. UAB, 9.5-point home favorites, 53 the total. Kind of lean to Navy a little bit. Navy's starting to show me a little something. They hung tough with Air Force, good team. They beat East Carolina, a good team. And I don't trust Tulsa's defense laying 6 on the road. Give me Navy there. I think Navy plus 6 worth a look there. Lean over as well. Middle Tennessee, UAB. I'm on Middle Tennessee. I mean, UAB to me does seem to be a bit down. I think their defense isn't as good. I think they miss Bill Clark, that great head coaching acumen on the sidelines. That's not to slight the new coach, but I think they've lost a little something with Bill Clark not being there anymore. Middle Tennessee's got a dangerous offense that can come through the back door if necessary, and I like that over at 53 with MTSU UAB. What do you think there, Big Ragoo?
I love Navy in the spot. I think they're playing a lot better. They took a good ECU team out, at home, and then they play a tough game against Air Force, And if you look at their numbers, their defense has been pretty good, outside that first game of the season. So their defense is pretty decent at Navy. I'm putting Tulsa on upset alert here, so I'm gonna sprinkle with Navy and take plus the points. And the MTSU game, I lean over.
All right, boss.
I'm not buying into this Navy.
That just heard we're not. So you like Tulsa? It sounded like, but we lost our guy, boss. We've lost boss and Conor Mac, and we've lost. Holy shit, we've lost everybody here for a sec. There we go.
Something going on with the stream.
Yeah, I think maybe the stream acting up. So we'll try see if we can hold the fort here as we continue along.
We got it.
Duke, Georgia Tech. Duke here, 3-point road favorites, 55.5. I like Duke here. I mean, I'm not buying Georgia Tech beating Pitt as whoa. First game with Jeff Collins fired with the new coach, and all of a sudden they're going to turn this into something positive and strong and long-term and sustainable. I got to see it again. And all Duke has been doing for me with Mike Elko is cashing for me. Duke was one of my strongest sides last week against Virginia, and they wire-to-wire dominated that game. I just think they're better than Georgia Tech. And I like the way that Riley Leonard kid's played at quarterback. The defense has been opportunistic, much improved for the Blue Devils. I like Duke here laying the 3. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, it has to be Duke or pass. I mean, Georgia Tech, they're still working on a lot of issues, and I think Duke, like you said, Elko's got that team playing really good, and it's if you can get 3 points by hanging on there, hang that 3 all day long with Duke.
All right, good stuff. North Carolina, Miami. Miami 3.5, 67 the total. I'm on Miami here. I'm on those Canes. Off a bye. Everyone remembers the terrible loss to Middle Tennessee. I get it. Middle Tennessee's got a bad offense, though. Let's keep that in mind. Cunningham's a good quarterback. We just talked about it. I think Miami bounces back here. The bye week, Van Dyke is better than he showed. Because to me, I thought this guy was going to have a great season. That was a horrible game against Middle Tennessee. Got benched, rightfully so. He was brutal. I think he's got a better game in him than that. And look, he's going to have to play better because, they might go to Jake Garcia at some point if he keeps this up, these struggles. And certainly, look, everybody gets well except Grant Wells because he's terrible. He can't play. Everybody but him gets well when you play the North Carolina defense. And I'm not buying North Carolina's defense being, everything's good now, that they held a terrible Virginia Tech offense to 10 points last week. So I like Miami here as a short home favorite. I like the over as well. Conor Mac, that North Carolina, Miami.
Yeah, I think in the end, I do like Miami a little bit here at home. In the end, I couldn't get there. I think North Carolina can score it. I never want them. They're always a favorite. Now they're catching points. I just went back and forth in this one, and there should be points. I mean, just will it get over is the question. I lean that way.
Big Ragoo.
It's definitely a Miami spot. I'm all over Miami first half here, minus 2.5 points. It just sets up well for them. This is one of those spots where, like you said, with the extra week to prep, North Carolina rolling into town with that, with that defense. Give me Miami all day, brother.
If Tyler Van Dyke does not bounce back here, then we've got real issues and real concerns about it.
Then it's time to pack his suitcase and put him on the bench.
That's right. Exactly right. Boss.
Hey, the defense that North Carolina puts on the field, nobody should put their money behind them in no way, shape, or form. So I would take Miami or nothing.
All right, next up, as we continue along, Ohio State, Michigan State. I don't really have a lot here. Ohio State's laying too big of a number for my liking, but I cannot back Michigan State against them. It's up to 27 now on the road, 65 the total. And even the total, it's gone up. But is Michigan State going to really do a lot of the scoring? It's an offense that's really taken a huge step back. And Ohio State's defense, we think, has improved this year. So pass for me, just not much. What do you think, Conor Mac, Ohio State, Michigan State?
Yeah, pass for me here. Ohio State, maybe team total. You want to look there? it's got to be a long time since Michigan State at home, 27-point dogs, maybe 30 years. I don't even know. Yeah, I just can't take them. I mean, I'd want to take these points. I can't get there from what I've seen so far out of Michigan State.
And like I said the other night, Kirk Herbstreit will never in his life be so happy to see and call an Ohio State-Michigan State game in his life after what he witnessed Thursday night in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, well, he's an Ohio State guy, so he just loves watching them no matter what.
Exactly. He's got to get those terrible visions of Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson out of his head, probably. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, my eye test tells me Ohio State, but my brain tells me Michigan State. I think it's a little bit of an overlay here with the number. I think it's too many points, and they're playing at Sparty. Just they haven't been playing sharp at all. But I think they might get up for this game just a little bit. This might be a little different story. So right now I'm really on the fence of pushing the button with Michigan State. I'm real close, but I haven't done it yet.
Boss.
Okay, Big Ragoo, don't lose focus right here, man. Don't lose focus. This is what goes on in the Big Ten right here. The teams knock each other off. This is could as well be an upset as well as it could be a blowout. Even though this Michigan State team's been playing horrible, you got the factor that you playing, at their stadium. You got the factor that it's a Big Ten conference game. Some of these guys played these guys before. They could just as well have the game of their life or try to turn things around today. So I think it's definitely way too many points for the home dog, and the home dog would be a good play right here. Maybe even early, because Ohio State either starts fast or they either finish big. So either or right there. I think Ohio State could start slow against Michigan State. Michigan State could take advantage of that and get some points on the board, and then maybe we have a game going into the second half.
All right, we'll do these next two games
push
back
me
to
over the edge.
Yes, there you go. Ole Miss.
There you go.
See, sometimes you just need a little support from someone. Yeah, exactly.
Gotta stay focused.
Gotta stay focused. So I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, push you over the
Conference
line. Exactly. Yeah, push you over the line a little bit. Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Washington, Arizona State. Ole Miss, Vanderbilt's a pass for me. I'm not involved side or total in that game. Don't have much opinion either way. Washington, I laid it with Washington. I think they bounce back strong after the UCLA debacle, and Arizona State's a good team to get well against. I know they hung tough against USC last week on the road, but I don't trust Arizona State, and I think Washington full focus. Michael Penix Jr. and that offense, I think, lights up a horrible Arizona State defense that I think will get just demolished here. So I think Washington can win by 2 touchdowns there. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, the Ole Miss game was tough. I couldn't get there with Vandy with the points. I kind of like the under in that game. The other one, yeah, I'm off here. Washington probably wins, but I'm not going to lay the points there.
All right, Big Ragoo.
I'm smiling. Look at these Ole Miss 5-0 and Vandy 3-2. Like I said earlier on the year, they got their 3 wins and that's it. They're done. Yep. So it's all downhill sledding for Vandy from this point forward. But now you got to figure out if you could take them in a spot or if you can't. I don't want him going up against Jackson Dart here and that Ole Miss offense. So I would have to lean Ole Miss hard. Just my numbers don't work out that way. But and then this Arizona State Washington game, I don't know. Maybe Washington, they come back, they bounce back in a big way possibly, or they got a little bit of a hangover. So, but ASU's defense is horrible. I can see Washington getting the cover here, but I haven't played it.
All right, boss.
Back to normal conference play, like Big Ragoo say. Vanderbilt, go ahead and stand down. I think the Lane train comes out again. I mean, tell me in the chat, what do y'all think? This guy Lane. Lane he's one of those persons that try to kick people while they down and stuff like that. Like he'll run it up, no problem on them. And I think this Vanderbilt team, although I do love that quarterback over there, I think in conference play, sized appropriately and all that kind of stuff, he doesn't get as loose as he's been getting against some of those other teams. So I like Ole Miss. Go ahead, lay the points and let them roll in this one right here.
All right, we'll do another pair here. Western Kentucky, UTSA, Air Force, Utah State. We've got UTSA 6.5-point home favorites, 72.5 the total, high total there. And we've got Air Force 10.5-point road favorites, 54.5 the total. I laid it with Air Force against Utah State because Utah State, the run defense is terrible, and that can't be against a team like Air Force. And look, we might have, by the way, the backup quarterback in for Utah State. Logan Bonner missed the game against BYU and is going to miss the whole season. He's out for the year, which means it's Cooper Legas once again at the quarterback spot, who was 2 touchdowns but also 2 interceptions against BYU. So a little mistake prone. I think Air Force can win that game handily. And then the other game, UTSA Western Kentucky, it's a high total. It may not be high enough. I've seen 45-38 with those two teams. I've seen them get into the 80s before in the last couple of years, and both of those defenses leave a lot to be desired. And UTSA nowhere close to as good as they were defensively last year, but they can move it with Harris. I like the over even at a very high total in the 70s. Connor, what do you think of those two games?
Yeah, this Western Kentucky UTSA played pretty close games the last couple of years. I really want a 7. I don't know if I get it. I'm going to wait on this one. I think this game's close again. And the other one, Air Force, tight game last week. They win this one. Utah State, I think, is getting better. And maybe it's good Bonner's out. He's just, get him out of there. Utah State's defense was better last week against BYU against the run. But you're right. All year they have not been good. You know what? I can't take Air Force. I just don't I can't take Utah State either. I lean them to +11. I don't know if I get to the window.
There is some truth to Air Force being a little more vulnerable on the road. They're a machine at home. Can they bring it with them on the road is the question. But I think they can in this matchup because I think they can run all over Utah State. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
I'm sticking with my Air Force first quarters. They've been cashing for me all year, so I'm not going to stop now. Give me Air Force in the first quarter in that spot. And then the Hilltoppers, I'm like Connor, I want 7, but I think we see points here. But UTSA, after that magical season they had last year, maybe 6.5 is not bad to put in your pocket either, but I think we'll see a shootout here. I think it's probably like a 6-7 point game for sure, one way or the other. But maybe a blocked extra point cashes the ticket or loses the ticket for you in this one.
Yeah, we've seen that before. A certain Florida State LSU game at the beginning of the year comes to mind. Boss.
Man, this UTSA team, it must be stopped some way, somehow. Western Kentucky, they can do it for sure. So having those 6 points could be a great thing going in this game that could be, like you say, a shootout all the way down to the end. Might even get some OT play in that one. But I don't know. I'm looking for this UTSA team to settle back down and be the team they used to be. I'm not with them with all this winning stuff. But back over on the Air Force side, oh yeah, I'm definitely following Big Ragoo first quarter Air Force right there. Something about that first initial drive down the field with Zeke Daniels with Air Force, they do a really good job, and then you don't see that group for the rest of the game. Is kind of sporadic, but they still get to the end zone and score with the triple option. Utah State, no rest in between, coming to play a running team triple option, and they don't do well on the run, like Ian said. And that's just a great opportunity. I think we're getting the better of the number in this one. It's a pretty low number because of the recency bias with the Navy game. So I think this is a great spot to take Air Force first quarter, first half, and full game.
All right, like an Air Force there. First quarter, first half, full game. All right, the next two, we've got App State, Texas State, UConn, FIU. App State laying a big number on the road. I have a small play on Texas State here, the Bobcats. The one thing that concerns me is they got bombed on the road. They are 2-0 at home, but they didn't play anybody at home. They played Florida International, and then they played Houston Christian. That's the concern. But I don't trust App State when they're laying points like this on the road. Even last year on the road, they laid big points. They were hit or miss. So small little spot here on Texas State for me. And then the other game that I'd mentioned just now, UConn, FIU. God help me, I'm laying the points on the road with UConn. Believe it or not. That's how much I don't think of FIU, even though they did beat New Mexico State last week. Look, Jim Mora. Look, I know Fresno had issues last week, bad spot, backup quarterback, but UConn beating them. UConn is a feisty team. I'll give them that. They don't roll over. We now are asking them to win by margin, but I think they can against this just sorry, horrible FIU group. What do you think, Connor?
Man, these are ugly games. I don't want anything. App State, Texas State. Maybe look over. I like UConn. I can't lay it, though. For some reason, I can't back them in this spot, so it's a pass.
I'm going to take my chance, even though you're right. Laying points on the road with UConn. Well, you might think, what am I doing? But that's FIU on the other side. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, if you'd have told me this game early on, like the first week of the season, I says definitely a pass. And I haven't changed my mind either late in week 6 here. So, yeah, I pass on FIU is the trash show, but I'd have to lean UConn. But, yeah, FIU did muster up 2 wins, two 2-win teams. But right now I say UConn's playing a little bit better football than they are. And I don't want to lay the wood with App State here. So I pass on both of these.
All right, boss.
I pass on the UConn, but I don't know. This App State, I would be interested in laying the wood with App State. I think App State, their hiccups and all that stuff, they're focused on winning the Sun Belt right now, and they got a clear shot to do it. Texas State, not the team we've seen in the past. They're having a down year this year, and I think that Appalachian State exploits that, get a chance to stretch out a little bit, have some fun.
All right, next up here we've got Southern Miss Troy and Wyoming, New Mexico. Troy 6.5, 7-point home favorites, 43.5 the total. I like Southern Miss. They're off a bye. They're 4-0 ATS. They're really a much improved team. I know they have struggles offensively at times, but man, their defense has really improved. And look, they beat Tulane recently. Southern Miss. I like Troy last week against Western Kentucky. They won outright as dogs, but now they're laying favorites. Southern Miss is a plucky little team. I think both Keys and Wilkie, their 2 quarterbacks, are going to be available to them today. Southern Miss, I like them as dogs here. And then the other game, passing for me, Wyoming, New Mexico. Nothing on that one. Conor Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I think in the end I'm going to stay off. Troy, I've been riding them. Just something about this doesn't smell right, even though I think they get the win there. Man, I got to pass in the Wyoming, New Mexico. I think Wyoming's a little bit better, but New Mexico's at home. So, yeah, pass.
All right, Big Ragoo.
I pass on both of these. I'll be real quick.
Boss.
Well, I pass on the first one, but the Mountain West, where I do it the best. This game right here, Wyoming and New Mexico, looks like a clear under. I mean, it's the classic Rocky Long, Craig Boyle, Wyoming 3-3-5 defense. So I think on paper it looks like a great under, but I think in contrast, this game goes over right here, and we're getting a great number for an over. Peasley, sometimes he can move the ball around. New Mexico, they do run a 3-3-5, but they're not as physical as Wyoming either. And so I also lean Wyoming in this one, but it's kind of hard to take Wyoming on the road. So I think I'd have more value in taking the over in this one.
I'm kind of with you, even though those are rough offenses much of the season. 37, and we have seen them play a little bit better, the last couple weeks. So that total does seem like it could get there with the over. All right, next up, we've got UTEP, Louisiana Tech, James Madison, Arkansas State. Louisiana Tech 2.5-point home favorites, 52.5 the total. I kind of like La Tech off a bye week. UTEP's going on the road. We've seen them 1-2 on the road. It's not exactly a trustworthy group. I think La Tech faced a pretty tough schedule as well. Missouri, Clemson, played some tough teams. Louisiana Tech off a bye week. I like them laying less than a field goal at home. I'm on James Madison again, 4-0 ATS. They're a great – Todd Centeio has been great at quarterback. Their defense forces turnovers, is opportunistic, good all around. I think they can win going away against Arkansas State. And I think that total's a little light at 55.5 because Arkansas State's defense is just – that's an over machine waiting to happen, that defense. So I think 55.5, that game goes over the total. James Madison, Ark State. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, this is a tough one. UTEP finally playing a little bit better football, so it's tough for me. And I lean the under, but I don't know if I get there. And the other one, I'd lay it with James Madison. Just don't think of it. Just lay it.
I agree. They've covered every game. They've destroyed the point spread in every game. You ride them until they fail to cover. That's what I do with teams like this, like what I'm doing with Kansas today, for instance. So what do you think here, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, James Madison, until the Bucks figure out what's going on with this team, they're still having a hard time. And I like James Madison, and I pass on the UTEP side with I like La Tech.
We knew this was a great FCS team all these years, James Madison. Nobody was sure if they'd be able to transition well to the FBS. Well, clearly they have. They're ready for FBS football. They can hang with any team in this football subdivision, FBS, and they're showing it right now.
Yeah,
what do you think here, boss?
I do like the improvement that UTEP is showing. Could be a great spot to take UTEP in the improvement that they're going, in the upward roar. But I'm not too keen on the Louisiana Tech I don't even think I've seen them play so far, so I had to call myself off of that game. And JMU, yeah, you got to ride. If you've been riding them to this point, you got to keep riding them. This Arkansas State team kind of going down the hill a little bit, even though they do well at home. They, overall, what they started with the new coach is kind of dying out a little bit over there. And JMU, they keep beating the bookies. If you like beating the bookies, then you need to be on JMU. So because they've been beating the bookies all the way across the board. So I like JMU in that spot.
All right, liking JMU in that spot, laying the points as well. All right, Washington State, USC, Clemson, Boston College. Next two games. I like the points with Washington State a little bit because I think USC, they showed last week, they never sniffed a point spread cover against Arizona State. Washington State, the quarterback there has been solid for the most part. He's got a decent arm. He's got some turnovers, but Cameron Ward can play. The game should be a shootout. I mean, it's a high total, but I could see it going over. USC, great offense, obviously. Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison and company. Travis Dye, the running back, but that defense, has shown sprung some leaks in it at times. So I think it's an over. I like the over more than the side, but I have a small bet on Washington State plus the points as well. And I'm passing on Clemson, BC, totally off that game. Conor Mac?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on Clemson, BC. I couldn't get there with the points with BC. I lean under in that game as well. I think it'll be tough for BC to score. Yeah, I like the notes in the Coliseum, but I think that's enough. I'll take the 12.5.
They were a good road dog with Leach, and they've been a good road underdog with this new coach as well. And they like playing for him. They replaced Rolovich. Things weren't jiving with Rolovich and these Washington State players. The new coach there now, and they're playing hard for this guy every single week, the Cougars. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
I like the over in that USC Washington State game. I'm not a big Pac-12 guy overall, but I kind of lean USC a little bit too. I know they kind of clean house up in Wazoo, but I think Southern Cal might be up to get into the number here too, also. But anyways, I definitely like the over here, and I'm off of the BC Clemson or BC Clemson game. But one note, Clemson is playing a little better offensively now.
Yes,
DJ's kind of seemed to find his groove a little bit. We'll see how he puts up. If he puts up big numbers today against BC, I'm going to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, there's no doubt it is a night and day difference. DJ Uiagalelei and his performance the last couple weeks and compared to anything we saw last season from him. He's definitely taken that step. And Dabo Swinney's being rewarded for his faith and confidence and sticking with him because he could easily go to that kid that they're very high on for the future there at Clemson and give him a chance, Cade Klubnik, but he's stuck with DJ. What do you think here, Bob?
I'm going to give y'all the key spot with USC, and that's defensive line versus offensive line. So USC defensive line is where they lack. So when they defensive line can beat the other team's offensive line, then they got a great chance of winning and covering. And right here, and also, with that being said as well, mobile quarterbacks become more difficult too when they can move around. Now this guy over here, he's not been doing well running. He's at negative yards running the ball, so I don't expect him to run the ball. And I'm not going up against, even if I did like Washington State, I'm not going up against USC at home this year. I told y'all once, I'll tell you again, the USC fans want blowouts. They want the Pete Carroll era back. They expect that and nothing less. That's why they put over all the money to get this guy in here. But Lincoln Riley, he's going to get a hiccup somewhere, somehow in this Pac-12 because he still has the same defensive mindset or something that he had at Oklahoma. And in big spots, they let teams get loose and he had to bring out the offense again to try to catch up. And Caleb Williams, he's a human. So he's allowed to have a bad day. And he has a bad day in any one of these games is going to result in a loss. Is Washington State the team to do it? I don't think so because I think that USC is going to control the trenches, and that's how they get over in this game. But I don't think I'm really willing to lay the points all the way. But I don't know if I'm feeling freaky later on and I'll win these two early games, I might go ahead and try to catch it at the first half or first quarter or something with USC.
All right, next two games up, we've got K-State, Iowa State, BYU, Notre Dame, and Conor Mac's backyard there in Las Vegas, Allegiant Stadium. We've got Kansas State, 1.5-point road favorites against Iowa State. I like K-State. It's just, I think, the better football team. I've cashed against Iowa State 2 weeks in a row. I took Baylor against Iowa State, took Kansas against Iowa State. I just don't think Iowa State's as good as they've been in the past. I think it's kind of downward trajectory for the program in general. K-State just to win the game on the road. I think they can get it done. BYU, Notre Dame. Look, I wasn't going to bet it initially. I'm seeing 4s now. I think BYU plus the points is worth the look now. Jaron Hall, good quarterback. I think it's moved too much toward Notre Dame. We're going to give Notre Dame all kinds of credit for North Carolina and ripping apart that bad defense. So kind of like BYU now at the 4. What do you think, Conor Mac, those two games?
Yeah, BYU, Notre Dame, like I said on Monday, should be tons of fans for both sides in that one. Yeah, even the lane points, Notre Dame, like here, no way. I lean BYU. I haven't bet it, but that'd be my lean. You know what? This is down to 1. Initially, I like Iowa State. I just think this here at Ames, this is their spot to get the job done. It should be a good one. Total at 45 is interesting. I still lean under, even at that low total.
All right, like an Iowa State. What do you think, boss?
Hey, I don't want to see Iowa State get beat by both Kansas teams, but they could get beat by Kansas and Kansas State. I really had a lot of hope for this Iowa State team, but they've been falling a little short, and I can't really back them in this spot, but it'd probably be a great chance to, but can't really back them against this spot against a Kansas State team who's 4-1 ATS, 1-0 on the road, looking great going into this. So I'm going to leave that game alone. And BYU and Notre Dame, I think my best play, and it might be a little fanish and just avoiding the conflict and all that kind of stuff, is the underplay in this one because BYU likes to run the ball. I learned from when they played North Carolina, and I took North Carolina that, the good teams pack defense on the road. It's kind of like a road game for Notre Dame. It's at a neutral site. It's halfway across the country for them. So they should pack that defense, and that's probably what they're leaning into to give them to be the favorite. But I don't see laying too many points with Notre Dame offense. No way, no how. We can't forget the fact that they're playing grown men right here because, the BYU team, they average players about 22 to 25 years old. And that could become an issue somewhere down there. So I stand on the under since the beginning of the season with Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame. So I'm gonna stand on the under in this spot when I don't really feel a clear spot. So I like the under in this one.
All right, liking the under in that one. All right, big Ragoo, BYU, Notre Dame, and Kansas State, Iowa State.
I lean over in the hate to go against my guy with the Notre Dame look there, but I lean over here in this holy war with the BYU and Notre Dame, and the other one was Iowa, Kansas State.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Iowa. I don't want no part of Iowa with that damn anemic offense that they have. So maybe look towards an under there, possibly. It was the only look I had there, and then maybe Kansas State gets the margin done. But Iowa can't score at all. I think you might be seeing the end of Ferentz's career finally.
Oh, Iowa State. It's Iowa State, Kansas State.
Iowa State. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be all right, man. See, I'm discombobulated, but okay, K-State, Iowa State, no, it's a pass for me. I don't have any action on that one.
We are getting Iowa now in this next two set of games. Iowa, Illinois, and South Carolina, Kentucky. Look, South Carolina, I took 8.5 when it started to seem like Will Levis may not play. And he hasn't been totally ruled out yet, but I don't think he's going to play, to be honest. And it's down to 5.5. I wouldn't take South Carolina at 5.5 now. But I did get a good number. I'm going to stick with it. And I like the spot. And I like Kentucky off a brutal loss to Ole Miss, tough loss. 2 tough games in a row, right? They've played. And now maybe without Levis, I think the Gamecocks were worth a look. But now it's down to 5.5. I don't like it as much at that number. And I really like Illinois. That's one of my favorite sides today. Just laying a short number against Iowa. Illinois is on the trajectory upward. Iowa's on the trajectory downward. They can run the football. DeVito's having confidence throwing it. Iowa's offense cannot move the ball, and Illinois is playing great defense. I think Illinois, that's a short price. 3-0 straight up and ATS at home as well, Illinois this year. Illinois gets it done against Iowa. Conor Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, look out. I think Levis plays too, but we'll see. I mean, the line's acting like he's not. So I'm going to wait on that game.
It's up to him.
Obviously. Oh, yeah, for sure. He's tough. He's tough. I'd lean under. And what was the other one? Oh,
Iowa,
Illinois.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I don't love it's 3.5 now, 4, but
Yep.
that's the only play in that game for me.
Yep.
I can only look their way. I think they're just a better football team right now at home.
Yeah, Iowa could only hang their hat the last few years on their run game and their defense. Well, they can't run the football this year, and their defense got gashed by Michigan last week. Their defense even slipped a little bit last week. So I think they're in tough on the road here against Illinois. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, the number's like 36.5 on the total in that game? I went back through my notes
Yep.
now in a minute. And I got it paid for 28. So as ugly as it seems, I had to lean under and maybe look towards maybe an Illinois team total over against them if they're starting to give it up on the defensive side a little bit. But then, and what was the other one?
It was
Kentucky, South Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of lean Gamecocks. I know the Gamecocks have their problems with Kentucky over the years, and if Levis is out, then I'm going to be on the Gamecock side. That's going to be my look.
All right, boss.
Well, I'm off of that Kentucky game. I'm after Kentucky losing to Mississippi. I'm not sure where they're going to land up. I think maybe we kind of overestimated them coming into the season. So I'm going to leave Kentucky alone altogether for now. Iowa State and Illinois, I like that under too. Brent Bielema, he's an NFL pro-style coach, and he likes to take his time, play defense, punt the ball, all those type of stuff. And Iowa, they beat up on offense. They still pack a little defense. I like Illinois to win as well, but I think it's going to come in under that number also.
All right, next up, next two games, Army Wake, Coastal ULM. Wake 16.5 point favorite, 65.5 the total. Look, what was that game last year? 70-59 or something like that. Army and Wake Forest. It was a crazy score. I'm going to take my chances. We can at least get 66 out of them. I don't think we're going to get 100 like we did last year, but Army's defense is still poor. We saw it again last week and all season. And Wake, I think, though, struggled with that Army triple option. So I think Army can do some damage. I like the over in that game. Coastal ULM, I took ULM, took the Warhawks, UL Monroe. Coastal's one of those very fortuitous 5-0 teams. Nothing's come easily. They've had a hard time winning by big margins. ULM is showing some improvement this year. So I took the points with the ULM side there. What do you think, Connor, those two?
Yeah, I don't know if there's that many points either, but I think it can get over the total. And I'm with you here. Give me a little bit with Monroe as home dogs here.
All right, Big Ragoo.
Yeah. So I like Wake and Bake today, my boys. Wake and Bake. I think his name your score in that game. I think they can be scored upon, but I don't think Army's like in the bottom of the categories defensively. I think Wake has a field day putting points up. So I'm looking at a team total over with Wake, and I'm also looking Wake first half.
All right, good stuff there. All right, boss.
I'm not taking ULM, especially not over Coastal Carolina. That's just not good arithmetic to me. But Army and Wake, I kind of like the under in this game right here. I think Wake Forest defense is a little underrated. They kind of get out there and get after people, especially in the secondary. So I think Wake Forest, I don't like laying that many points with them, but I think the under is a good spot.
Yeah, we won't know about Will Levis, Tom, until game time. It's just because we're one of those game time decisions. Right before the game, we'll find out if he's playing against South Carolina. All right, next up, next two games, we've got Florida State, NC State, a pretty interesting ACC matchup, and Texas A&M, Alabama. NC State 3.5, 50.5 the total. We'll start there. I like NC State a little bit spot-wise. They're very good at home. The one concern is, look, big game against Clemson, right, last week, and, they fall flat a little bit. I don't think so. I think back home against Florida State, Devin Leary and company, they'll rally the troops, still got a very good defense. Florida State's got to go on the road to a place where, again, NC State's been very good on this home field the last couple of years. I am concerned about what I saw from that Florida State defense, really the Louisville and the Wake Forest game. Defense didn't get stops when they needed it. I think the better defensive team, NC State, lean NC State. Total's gone down. Could go either way with the total. I lean over just because of where the number is, though. A&M, Alabama, I'm passing. There's no way I'm taking A&M, even if Bryce Young doesn't play. No way. I mean, I'm out on A&M. And if this is one game where if Alabama's up big, whether Young plays or whether it's the backup Milroe, Saban's going to have incentive to run the fucking score up because he's got a beef with Fisher. They don't like each other. They've been squawking in the back and forth. This is one game where Alabama may want to pile up the margin if they have the opportunity. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, we talked about it on Monday. You know, I don't have some of the money I've looked at, in this Florida State, NC State, but NC State just took care of them here at home over the years, and they bring back kind of a similar offense. I think they win this one. They have the better defense. I like the under, but now it's under 50 and a half. We obviously know key number 52. So this is NC State and lean under. Yeah, no Christmas cards or any of that shit sent between these two coaches. I don't want anything to do with this one. This is a watch for me.
Poor CBS. They put this before the season as their big Saturday night special SEC primetime game on CBS. Texas A&M, Alabama. Thought it would be a huge game at this time, and unfortunately A&M's just stumbled badly already in 1 month into the year. What do you think, Big Ragoo?
I'm going to speak on the FSU game first. Like Connor says, you go back to Chuck Amato days and Bobby Madden, that NC State's always played Florida State really good at home. And then when they go to Doak, they usually split up there. And this game's in NC State. And I think NC State has a little bit better on the defensive side. Now, we know FSU has improved. And then I don't know what the guys that were making the schedule for the ACC this year, but between Wake, Clemson, NC State, and Florida State, all three of those teams are playing each other in the 3-week period. It's crazy. But this is the rubber game for FSU. If they win this, they kind of keep a good bowl chance alive, going forward. And they got to play Clemson on deck too. So it's going to be tough sledding. I said it last week for Florida State. These next three are in the middle part of that game. So I like NC State here. I think there's a little bit of value in that number. I think they can get them by a touchdown. So I'm not going to bet it because I'm stupid, but my numbers show me NC State to cover. And then the Alabama Florida A&M game.
Yep.
Yeah, A&M, they're still having their struggles. I think it's got to be a Bama first half pass for me on that one. But I won't bet either one of these games, but I lean really hard. Not my money, your money, put it on NC State.
Yeah, well, he's a Florida State fan. To keep that in mind, too, Big Ragoo. So, but he's a very unbiased, though. He says NC State's probably the side to look at there. Boss, what do you think?
NC State. I mean, I'm kind of tossed up in that game. I think FSU deserves some get back. I like that they're a balanced team. They like to play defense. They can run and pass the ball. And then NC State. I mean, they're the one. They're the dark horse that might have a clear future. So they could just as well run away with the game. They're doing some things on the offensive side of things this year that's looking really good for them. But I'm going to go ahead and pass on that game. In Alabama, Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher and Saban, I mean, with the relationship they have, I don't see if 23 points in between them it might be too many. We all know that every SEC team, they gear up basically to beat Alabama and Georgia. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to have some tricks in his bag today. I mean, Arkansas almost pulled it off. I don't know how they just got blown out by the backup quarterback and everything in the second half last week. Maybe Texas A&M can play them closer to the wire too. So I kind of lean Texas A&M plus the points.
All right, next two games. We have four games left, by the way. Oregon, Arizona, Fresno, Boise. Oregon 13.5 on the road, 70.5 the total. I like Zona to hang around. I do. I think they could. The weak point of Oregon's team, and look, Oregon's looked great the last few weeks, obviously. Stanford, they blew them out. BYU, they blew them out. Washington State, they won by 3, came back. They were a little shaky there. But that, to keep in mind, 2 games away from Eugene, they barely beat Washington State, didn't cover, and then they got throttled by Georgia. Now they're going on the road, and their secondary is what's vulnerable. And you can exploit Oregon's secondary. The pass defense is the one weak link. And Jaden DeLora and that pass offense for Arizona, they're throwing the ball and they're having success. I think this is a tougher game for Oregon than maybe the line indicates. I like Arizona there. Double-digit home dogs, high total, but I could only go over in that. Fresno Boise's a pass for me. I want to buy low on Fresno after the UConn loss, but Logan Fife was terrible in Jake Hayner's absence, and they're battling a lot of injuries both sides of the ball. So for that reason, it's a lean only to Fresno. I'm going to stay off. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to get involved Fresno, I got to see more here out of them. Arizona, you know what? I don't know if we get 14. We got 13 and a half basically everywhere in that game, which I still like at 13 and a half, but I sure love 2 touchdowns. I think Arizona can score on Oregon. Obviously, Oregon's going to score on Arizona. Their defense is not very good, but yep, I like Arizona and the points there.
Like in Arizona and the points as well. Big Ragoo.
I lean under in this game. I think it's too many points for. I think Arizona might be able to slow them down just a little bit to stay within the number. But I think Oregon wins the game. I wouldn't put Arizona and put them up sort of on the spot. But I think the under's a little too rich, so I like the under there. And then I don't want no part of Fresno State, man. Not the way they're playing. Will Boise take care of business? They possibly could. If that's the same Fresno State team I've seen the past couple of weeks, I think Boise covers easily.
All right, boss.
They're 4-1 now, and I'm still not backing Bo Nix with Oregon, so I'm off of that game totally. But Fresno State, Boise State, I feel a little risky in here. I feel I like the under a lot. For one, I mean, we got backup quarterbacks on both sides of the ball. I mean, for both teams in this one. Fresno State has a spotty defense, but they can play well against some teams. And Boise State, I don't know if it's recruitment or something wrong. I mean, they lost their offensive coordinator for one. Andy Avalos, he's more of a defensive guy. And so he's going to be at the helms of his coaching staff to try to get the offense back rolling. Last week, they did put out an impressive win, but if you watch the game, I mean, I was high on Green coming in the game over Brockmeyer, but I mean, Brockmeyer's already gone. But at the beginning of the game, they tried to still split the time with Green with the other quarterback. For what reason, I don't know. The other quarterback stinked up the field. By halftime, they put Green back on the field. He couldn't really throw the ball well, but what he could do well was the naked bootleg. He did it about 3, 4, 5 times for big yardage, scored a touchdown off of it and everything, and that's what changed the game for Boise. Fresno, I don't have no accountability for what happened to them last week. The Fife guy, he did throw 2 interceptions, but I'm going to have faith in Fife in this one because he's a local guy for them. I think the team, despite his bad performance, may still believe in him. And don't forget about Mims in the running game. But this Boise State, they did find their defense last week, and the defense played really well. So I think this game just going to come down to defense, and I like the under. But I like taking 7 with the hook with Fresno State. This game could easily come down to a field goal or something, and it's going to be really telltale for both teams going into conference play right here. These are 2 teams that were high looking to win the Mountain West. Now they're looking to survive in the Mountain West.
That's right. That's a good point. I mean, big expectations and kind of not meeting them, at least early in the season, both of them. But I think Talon Green, the shift, getting Bachmeier out of there is only a good thing for the Boise offense. Hell, the over might have some value in that game. If Fife can play even a little bit better, I think Boise's offense without Bachmeier is going to be a little bit better. Maybe we can look over the total. I lean that way in that Fresno game. All right, the last 2 games now. And remember, we got Dabby Cab, Tennessee LSU, live betting stream, noon Eastern, right after us here on Pub Sports Radio. Last 2 games, Hawaii, San Diego State, Oregon State, Stanford. Passing on Hawaii, San Diego State. I mean, I can't lay that many with San Diego State. With Burmeister, that offense. I know Hawaii is just in a terrible way right now, but I can't lay that many. Clear pass. And I liked Oregon State initially, but Chance Nolan's out, which means obviously at the quarterback spot for this game for Oregon State. That means Kristen Jebbia, he played for Oregon State in a bunch of games last year, so he does have experience. If anything, now you're getting more value with Oregon State. It's down to what, 4.5 now in that game. If anything, you're getting more value. I still like Oregon State on the road. Stanford's terrible. All right, Stanford's unbackable. They have no defense at all. Terrible defense. Can't back Stanford. If anything, you're getting more value now with Oregon State. And Jebbia has experience, even though Nolan's not in. He's played before. I like the Beavers still, and you're getting, like I said, a better number. Conor Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's not that big a deal. Not huge with the backup there. I don't know what to take to get Stanford, and I couldn't do it here. So I like Oregon State a little bit. They're just a better football team there. There's no way. Hawaii, San Diego State, pass. There's just no way. I'm dodging that game with a 10-foot pole.
I don't blame you. Big Ragoo.
The common opponents with Stanford and Oregon State was USC and Utah, right? No, I'm sorry. Anyways, yeah, they both played USC. I can't really get behind Stanford in this spot. Oregon State, I'm not crazy about them taking them on the road, but I think some of the sharper money, believe it or not, has come back on Stanford with that number dropping. But I do like the under here. I don't think there's going to be a ton of points either way, so I show a little value in the under. So I lean hard towards the under, and I pass on the SDSU game, Hawaii.
Yeah, I know. David Shaw seems like a nice guy, but it's enough now. I mean, you're going to have to make a change now, finally, after this year. This can't continue. I mean, this was once a proud program that had Andrew Luck, Harbaugh, well over a decade ago, and it's just been a steady decline ever since. This is the lowest Stanford's been probably in 20 years at least. What do you think, boss?
And I tell you, not taking Hawaii on the mainland for sure, and not taking San Diego State with their quarterback issues, minus 22. That's just weird. I don't know how this game got to where it is now. I don't understand that one. But Oregon State and Stanford, I'm looking for Oregon State to get back on their feet. I said it last week. No way they could play the defense that defense played the time of their life against SC. Didn't have nothing left for Utah. But I think this is a spot where they can stand up again. So I kind of lean Oregon State. But I wish Oregon State was at home in this game. If they was at home, I'd take them minus 7.5. But here on the road, not so much. But I don't know. Maybe we could be looking at a under, because Oregon State has some really good defense, and they may be able to slow Stanford down and keep it under the number. But the number's already dropped, opened at 58, all the way down to 53 now. So kind of late to the party on that one. So I'm off.
All right, you are off that game and totally. All right, good stuff. That is the Saturday card. We've gotten through every game. We got best bets to wrap up the show in just a second. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. First, though, messages from Manscaped Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Manscaped, promo code Pub Sports, 20% off your purchase with the promo code Pub Sports. All right, best bets to wrap up another edition of the College Football Pub Up. Conor Mac, start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, there's a couple threes out there. I know there's a lot of 3.5s. NC State, I like them all week. I think they win again at home. Real quick, though, I got to throw a dog out. The games are about to start. The more and more I like it, especially if you get 7.5, is with Kansas. It's just staring me in the face, and I know tons of people like TCU, but just to throw that in there on these morning games, too. Kansas, plus 7.5.
There you go, Kansas for a little early best bet, and official best bet, NC State, minus 3.5 against Florida State for Conor Mac. Big Ragoo, best bet.
Go Canes, first half, minus 2.5. Bounce back spot for the Canes.
There you go. Miami early, first half against North Kakalaki. Best bet for Big Ragoo. Boss.
Man, they brought me all the way over into the MAC on a Saturday, my numbers. So I'm going to ride with my numbers, and I'm going to go best bet Buffalo to beat Bowling Green. Minus 2.
There you go. Buffalo Bulls to get the job done. Best bet for Boss. And my best bet, let's go Big Ten Saturday night action. Illinois, we're going to lay the 3.5. That's the best number out there right now, 3.5 against Iowa. I think it's a great Illinois team. I cashed one of my stronger sides last week. They beat Wisconsin handily on the road. It's a better, improving Illinois team and a regressing Iowa team. Cheap price to back the better team. Illinois, minus 3.5 against Iowa for my best bet. There we go. Big Ragoo.
You boss just bet a MAC game?
Yes,
You gotta just
a
play
best
this
bet
one.
on a MAC game.
Holy shit.
Let me check my temperature. I'm all right.
Let's make sure he's feeling
all right.
okay.
I'm
Let's
all
make
right,
sure
I'm
he's
all
feeling okay. He's doing okay. There you go. It's
All right, just checking.
no jungle fever or anything like that causing that out of Boss. Great stuff. Great show. It's always fun on a Saturday morning with Connor and DJ Big Boss and Big Ragoo. Make sure you tune into the live stream. We got there's no UFC this week, is there? They're off this week. No. So it's just the live stream. NFL Pub Up tomorrow with Jimmy. Live Sunday night, Monday night football as well here on Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you check all that out. Have a great Saturday. For Conor Mac, DJ Big Boss, Big Ragoo, I'm Ian Cameron. Let's have a winning Saturday. Enjoy it. We're back next Saturday for another edition of the Pub Hub, College Football Pub Hub, right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Welcome to another edition of the Barking Dead.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of EPL on
Class is in session.